Now, since you had basically 2 weeks of collecting news for us, what do you have?
I actually came across a few things I was quite excited about. If you'd like to share my screen.
I do. I do.
All right, that looks like my screen. So the headline really gives it away on this one right away. Daniel Bradley wrote a blog post about this new feature that is in Entra, one that, at least in public preview in Entra, one that everyone I know has wanted for a very long time. And we are now able to soft delete devices in Entra. So for any of you that have deleted Entra joined devices up to this point, you know that once you've deleted it, it's gone. You pretty much have to go through the join process again on the device. And up until now, gone are the days of the Active Directory recycle bin in Entra. So I wouldn't say that this is quite to the point of the recycle bin yet. There are a couple of gotchas. Hybrid join devices, for example, still need to be recreated through a sync, for example. And there are a couple of other gotchas in here, but it's in preview. Haven't had the chance to test it out myself yet because it's just a couple of days old. But really exciting, long overdue feature. I'm very happy to see this, actually. I should say too, one of the things that does happen when you do go into it, when a device goes into a soft deleted state, authentication from the device stops, essentially. So from what I've seen, it's more akin to you're disabling a device in Active Directory if you've gone through that experience before. So nevertheless, don't want to belabor the point. Very exciting stuff. Also came across this documentation. I think James Robinson shared this, but you can now import the ADMX and ADML files for VS Code and manage VS Code policies through Intune, which we were also not able to do up until, I believe, last week. Recent news would show that I think this is an important feature, much needed feature. Of course, I'm talking about some of the stories that we've read. Johan, I'm sure you've seen them, and I'm sure some of our audience has as well, where you get a bad extension installed in VS Code in your organization because anybody can install any extensions they want. Having management or the ability to have management around that, super important. So I wanted to share this as well. Niall Brady posted a nice long blog post about secure boot certificates on older hardware. Of course, we are not escaping today without a secure boot certificate story. Basically, the part that I wanted to point out here, but I highly recommend reading this entire post. I'm sure all of you have older devices that haven't had BIOS updates available in here. But what's going to happen, right, to our older devices that aren't getting BIOS updates? And really, I wanted to point out this tweet thread between Niall and Mike Terrell. Essentially, you'll be able to still push the certs into the active DB, but the default DB won't be updated. So if you did that factory restore, as Mike says right here, I'm pretty much just reading his words, of BIOS, then you'll have to install the new updates again, or the new certificates again. Fantastic post here, of course. When you get these two, or folks like these two talking, I pretty much listen to what they're going to have to say, so I recommend reading that. Have you come across any of these situations yet, Johan, yourself, an older device that needed to go through this process?
Well, I have a couple of my older Optiplexes, the 7060s, which are probably, if not 8 years old, so at least 7 years old.
Yeah.
Obviously, their BIOS was kind of behind. Dell did have a somewhat newer BIOS out there, but I was able to get them updated with Secure Boot 2023 certs. So I was happy with that.
This was this might explain I don't want to go too off on a tangent, but you and I were talking recently about some of the devices that I was seeing in one organization. Didn't make sense to me why they were getting updated, because their BIOS had not been updated in quite a long time. Now that I've seen this post, I'm thinking this might have been part of it, because the certs are still being updated. They're still being inserted into ActiveDB. Something for me to go run down too.
That's good.
Right.
And rumors are also that some organizations this week got some unexpected help with patching of BIOS.
They did. Thank you for bringing that up. So I heard a story this afternoon from somebody that I will not name, but you know who you are if you ever watch this. Basically, so as I understand the issue, a lot of devices out there that were enrolled into auto patch, even if they had drivers being blocked through updates, received drivers over the last few days.
And firmware.
And firmware. Yes, thank you. A great clarification. I think Microsoft has actually Intune support tweeted me this morning, and they have acknowledged this issue now. But even if you had drivers and firmware blocked, these devices were still getting it. Well, never waste a good crisis. That's something that I learned very early on in IT, and I love the follow-up message that I got was, hey, it's not so bad. We had a lot of devices that do need BIOS updates. They need firmware updates because we are working through the Secure Boot certificate update process. And heck, after those drivers came down, about 50 more of those devices were ready. They were supported. They had their certificates. They had the right version of BIOS, and all was good. So never wasted a crisis.
Yeah. No, one of my. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then of course, it's not your fault at that point that they were updated, right? That's the beauty of it.
Can blame someone else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, one of my favorite TED speakers of all time that I listen to, Renee Brown. She always talk about how good of a mistake the mistake was. Basically, what did you get out of it? Also, because there are things to learn from mistakes, and yep, there we are. Beautiful.
Exactly. All right, a couple more things. Let's see. I came across this post from John Markham. Had a clever way of so we don't have maintenance windows in Intune yet in any fashion, really. I don't know if you happen to stumble across this too, Johan, but he had a clever way of putting maintenance windows into a remediation. Basically, just set the time that you don't want a remediation to run, for example, and if it is within that time, if it's outside that maintenance window, just run or basically exit with a code 0 success. It's good, and then run again later. And if it runs at a time that it's inside the maintenance window, it's going to go ahead and actually run the entire script. There's much more to this blog post. John did a fantastic job here on this, of course, but really, really clever way of solving the lack of maintenance windows. I thought this was awesome. Let's see. Came across this website as well, MS Icons. Oh my gosh, who did I get this from? It was Daniel Bradley. Again, I wanted to make sure I put proper attribution out there. But he put together this entire repository of Microsoft icons. So you can see here on the main page, you see a lot of Azure resource icons like Log Analytics, for example, Event Hubs. But if you type in Intune, for example, well, you have to type the whole word. You'll also find Intune and security baselines and devices and things like that. For some reason, I just have a soft spot for repositories of icons. It makes things much easier when you're building out a diagram or something like that. So I wanted to share this. And last but not least, going back to Secure Boot, Stephen here shared this KQL query. If you are using Defender for Endpoint in your organization, you can go ahead and run this query, and it's going to show devices that are not up to date with their Secure Boot certificates. So a lot of stuff going on. And actually, one of I guess the last thing I wanted to mention, Johan, you pointed out to me yesterday that Microsoft Build was going on, and I was just wondering if you were going to start installing OpenClaw on all of your devices and giving it access to your photos and documents. And
well, I mean, over my dead body.
That was all I had. I had to sneak that one in there because it's been the talk of the town for the last 24 hours, I would say. OpenClaw for Enterprise.
Yeah. We'll review that later, or I will review that part later. I'm not that brave yet to give an agent access to pretty much my entire machine and like hope for the best. Like, yeah. No, I'm too old for that. Either the 22-year-old me might have been, all right, go for it, YOLO, you know. But no, not me.
Nope.
All right.
I agree.
All right, then. I do have a couple of things I'd like to share as well, so I'm going to steal the screen from you.
All righty.
So, long story short, risk vulnerability in the Netlogon service. Make sure that you patch with the Mayfile update, otherwise you may be in trouble. That was the gist of it. Let's see, what else? We talked about the unexpected patching. We obviously have some good news also. Our community is celebrating 2 years this week, so very excited about that. Coming up well over 1,000 members on it. So if you are not on it already, feel free to join us for technical, questions, discussions, comments, whatnot. Good crowd.
Oh yeah.
And then I've been working with the DeployR products now for quite some time, and just this week or a couple of days back, I learned this that I did not know. That you can add ESD file directly. You don't need to just use Vim files that we've been using for any deployment solution known to man since forever. And it might not be a big of a deal, but if you look at the difference here in size, it is significant.
Oh, wow.
So an ESD file of the exact same build, 5.4, the Vim version of it, 6.7. So I don't know what that's percentage, but 20-ish percent.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. And thank you, Michael, for sharing that. Say Michael is in Europe this week. He's attending Experts Live in over there. Usually run it back-to-back in 2 different countries, but this one's for the Netherlands. And Rudy Ohms, among others, recommended to not use hot patching on every single device because you don't really get all updates in that update. So it could be very well a good idea to keep at least some devices on the regular patching just to see what's going on with that one. Secure boot information has been the most important recently, but I think it will be worth mentioning. And speaking of DeployR, Mr. Michael Nystrom had a new blog post out on how to set that up behind basically behind a firewall. So say that you want to run your deployment server in Amazon or in Azure. It's never going to be directly to the internet. There is always a firewall in between, and there are some changes you need to make to the configuration for that to be happy. And then we have our, if not weekly, so monthly reminder that MMS will be in San Diego this fall in October. Very excited about that. And not just that, It is the fact that the the welcome, opening reception, the welcome party is on board of a little boat. Not so little boat.
Not so little. That is going to be awesome.
That is going to be awesome. So, if not all the great content and sessions to come there, this is probably a good reason as well.
Hmm.
And finally, it is patching time. Not the main controllers this time, unless you run Notepad++ on the main controller, which you shouldn't. But even if you do, it should be updated as well. So that was all I had in terms of news.